if you've ever dated a narcissist and you're wondering how to heal from it or to stop loving them because you know it wasn't right how they treated you, this video is for you. So, number one, sorry if it's super windy right now. I am in Portugal right now still. I am changing campsites from where I was yesterday in a little bit, so hopefully where I go it's a little bit less windy, but it's beautiful and I'm loving it. And I'm in the van right now. Arlo is up on the bed, but you can't see him anymore. And so I was just doing my meditation and I was thinking, or not thinking, but observing what was coming through, and I was thinking about some of the symptoms that I still have that have been kind of on the back burner. And so I was going into them and I was like, what emotion, what memory is still living within me that is causing this physical manifestation of this symptom or these symptoms? And so what I was being shown was being taken back to when the symptoms started, and it was at the time that I started dating this narcissist. And so it was about 10 years ago, and we went to high school together, so before the 10 years. And I remember I was seeing this and feeling this in my meditation. When I first met him, I thought he was incredible. Like I thought he was so smart. I saw so much good in him. I thought he was different, and I just really thought that I loved him. And I think that a part of me really did. I think the truth of who we are is love, right? And so when we started dating a few years later, it's like I felt such a deep connection with him and such an awe with him, and something that was just, I hope that you can hear me, that was just so unexplainable. And it was like there was an electricity running through us. We would even talk about it, like when we would kiss, it would feel like there was electricity, like we were like almost about to be shocked. And it was just so just full of energy, but also there was something about him that felt so familiar and felt like we had like past lives together, like we were one, like we were so connected. And what I was hearing in my meditation today was that it wasn't love, it was familiar. And so I do believe there's a few parts of that. And so I do believe that we had past lives together. And what I know from past lives and current lives and these souls that we travel through time with is that we change roles, right? And so in one life you might be like mother-daughter, mother-father, and then a past life you might have been married, you might have been brother and sister, like we just are friends or a boss or whatever. We stay close by our souls that we're, traveling through time with. And so sometimes what I feel to be true is that we choose to be like the villain, the bad guy in somebody's life, one of these souls that we travel with, in order to give them the gift of what they're trying to learn and grow through in this life. And so dating him was beautiful in those ways. Like it felt so magical, so familiar, and so connected. And so that's why it was so hard to understand why he was cheating, why he was doing such horrible things that like I shouldn't even talk about right now, because they were really bad. And I just couldn't understand how something that felt so familiar to me, so ancient to me, so much like love to me, could be doing that in this life. And so I felt connected to it. I felt like my purpose and my worth was to him help him heal through the things that were causing him to do what he was doing to me. And that's part of narcissism in this human experience here on earth, is that, oftentimes they'll convince you that they need you in order to get better. And so when I was dating him, it was like he was destroying me in a lot of ways, in my emotions and all of that. And then he was my comfort for it, because I wanted to protect him, and I didn't tell my friends, and I would like push away my friends because of his influence, and because I didn't want them to know what was going on in this, like, what I thought was like a divine connection. And I think it was, but not necessarily how I was thinking it was. And so he was hurting me, and he was the one nurturing me when I was when I was hurt from his doing. So it was this toxic cycle. I was becoming brainwashed, I was becoming isolated, and I was just in a cult of one, is what it's known as, to be dating a narcissist. It's known to be a cult of one because, like, oftentimes when you're in a cult, you're brainwashed, you like can't even see up from down, you isolate your family and friends. And so the other part of the familiarness of it is that we will attract partners who are familiar to us from, earlier parts of our life. And so if we were experiencing times where we didn't have boundaries with people, where we didn't know our self-worth, where we were used to like certain levels of abuse and that kind of thing, then we will attract partners and friendships and bosses and all these things that are identical to that, until we can see clearly what that is and choose self-worth and love, and choose to move through that and no longer accept that as treatment. Even though it's familiar, it's not love. And so when we can move through that and we can finally find it in us, it's not going to be comfortable. Comfortable can be familiar, but that doesn't mean that it's good. It doesn't mean that it's love. And I'm trying to find another way to explain this, but I think that you're understanding it, is like, we have to get uncomfortable in order to create the life that our soul wants for us. And so in a way, we can be grateful for these people who have come into our life, and perhaps it's a soul connection. Perhaps you've been traveling through time with them, and they just in this life chose to be that villain for you. So in that way, it's like, wow, thank you for, sacrificing part of your expression of God, of your experience, in order to be that for me, to play that role for me, to be that mirror for me. Thank you for allowing me to bring those parts out in you, in this perceived reality, so that I could grow and remember the truth of who I am, and choose to get uncomfortable and choose better for myself, more love, true love, not familiarness, but to choose to have self-worth. And what does it mean to have self-worth? It means to understand the truth of who you are, and understand the worth of the truth of who you are. That worth is infinite abundance. It's unconditional love. It's joy. It's bliss. It's not this bare minimum manipulation, control. It's not your job to fix another soul. And so that was that other part that was coming through, is like, it's not my job to fix him anymore. And like, yeah, I can reflect on those times, and I can think like, wow, I wish he would have just known how wonderful I thought he was, and all the good that I saw within him. but he just wasn't there, and I can't change that for him. He needed me as a status symbol, is what he wrote one time on a paper and left it on a table. And he would do things like that. Like, he would always be like taking Snapchats of me and sending it to people, and just like trying to prove something with me as like an object for him, when I was looking at him like with awe and like love. And so what I also then saw as I was moving through this meditation was, I was in tears of that realization. Was like, it was love on my end, but at the same time, it wasn't mutual love. It was just this familiar connection. And then when I finally like wrapped my mind around the parts that still weren't completely resolved, like, I've been here before, but like I've talked about in other videos, like with my mind, body, soul meditation that I had recently, it was like, oh, I get it. I get it. Like, I witnessed the mind like being so alone and like having to try and live on its own, and the soul being so trapped and not having a voice from the mind. The mind chooses, the soul knows, and the body just being so not listened to because the mind's the masculine, the soul is, oh no, they're gonna start lawn mowing. The soul is the feminine, and the body is like the child. And so when they're so lost in their own and they're not paying attention to the body, it's like the body is so alone. And so when I like understood that and was in it, it was like, then I alchemized it, and then I was like, oh, I get it. I can merge it, and I can move to the next level of this. And so it was the same thing with this today. Was like, oh, that wasn't love, that was just familiar. And then I was being shown, like, I brought forward all my angels and guides. I was like, does anyone else want to come forward? Maybe if I bring you a little closer, it'll not be so loud. I was like, does anybody else want to come forward? And then I felt like my soulmate connection, and I felt just how that was, and like how he had that same awe and love for me that I had for this ex, and that I will have for this soulmate in the future, but even more and more, because he's going to be so wonderful, I'm sure. And if we choose a partner for ourselves, I hope that they will inspire you and protect you and encourage you to be all that you are and more. The narcissist I was dating like wouldn't even let me speak in conversation. He would judge everything I would say. I would laugh at a joke in a group setting, and he would look at me like, shut up. And I was healing at that time, so I allowed it. But I would never allow that. And not only would I never allow that, but I want the exact opposite for that now. And so the person and the people who I allow into my life moving forward and in this chapter of life are, again, the exact opposite. And I hope that for you too. And so if you're healing from narcissistic abuse, from dating a narcissist, it's okay. Maybe I'll close this. A little more cozy in here. It's okay if you're still dreaming about them, I think that was like something that I was almost feeling really guilty about, was that I got it. Like 10 years ago, I fell in love with a narcissist, and then I would still have dreams about him until this day. Like, still have dreams about him, like where we get back together and all of that. And I'm like, why do I still have that? But it's because there's something deeper that we need to learn. And us as empaths often attract narcissists, and so it can be very confusing. We feel so much love for them. And I almost, in my meditation, I was feeling like the way I like reflect on how I first saw him is like almost like a mother. And like I like just had so much awe for him, like I'm saying. And so I think in a past life, like maybe I was a mother to him. Maybe it was that divine connection and something more beautiful. but not in this life. And so I gave myself permission to let him go. And that just means, like, in this life, thank you for the lessons and I let you go. And thank you for playing this role for me. And I'll see you in the next life. And hopefully it's a more enjoyable relationship. So I hope that this message reaches the right person. If you're here with me right now, it's probably for you. And so let me know in the comments if it feels good to do so, what you experienced with this. If you have any other kind of thing you want to add to this, let me know. Please give this a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new here. I will see you in tomorrow's video.